What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. There's a bunch of stuff that's happened, more reveals than I thought would happen before E3, although some of them may have been leaked and forced their hand. So let's just get started here, guys. First thing to talk about today, though, are some E3 no-shows. There are two right now that I think some people expected to be there. One definitely that kind of surprised me. The other one I was not as surprised about. The first one that surprised me is that Kojima came out on Twitter and said Death Stranding will not be at E3. We will not see any kind of teaser, trailer, gameplay, nothing. And I guess they did say that Death Stranding is still pretty recent in development. They're not super far along, but we at least saw a teaser last year, and I'm a little surprised that they have nothing for us this year in the E3, the biggest time for games. Now, there's a lot of other places they can show it off down the road. Or maybe, you know what, they don't show it off till next E3. It seems like a game that will probably be towards the end of the PS4's lifespan. And I don't think Kojima is in any rush to get this game done. He does like to take his time, has a lot of attention to detail, and just make sure the game's done well. The last trailer just left us with so many questions that I wanted to see a little more of an explanation here in terms of what the game is. But you know what? I guess we'll just keep speculating and keep moving on to the next time I guess they show us. And the other no-show is Microsoft with their VR headset. A lot of people were thinking that Scorpio was specifically being designed outside of 4K to allow VR to happen with their Xbox console, because the original Xbox that they have right now, the Xbox One, is probably not capable of VR, at least doing it well, whereas the Scorpio is much more powerful and should have no problem doing VR, much like how the PS4 does VR. But Microsoft's saying no VR right now at E3. We're going to focus mostly on Scorpio, and of course we're focusing on our mixed reality with the PC. And at this point, I'm fine with that. That actually makes a lot of sense if you think about this, because keep in mind, they're going to try to sell us on what we're still thinking is a little bit of kind of an expensive system. A lot of people are now saying it's going to be $400. That just seems a little too cheap for me. I'm still in the camp of somewhere between $450 and $500 for this thing. And then if they also show us a $500 headset that we have to buy, all of a sudden you're going to the store and you're trying to buy $1,000 worth of stuff. That might be a little intimidating for some people, or just tough for people to do. So right now it makes sense for them to focus on Scorpio, show us why we should buy it, and then next year when they get everything refined, that's when you push VR on us for Scorpio. They did also say that they have plans of making VR completely wireless for consoles. They don't want wires and tethering and stuff going on, which I can appreciate, because that is the biggest problem with VR right now. It's such a hassle to set up and use. A lot of times people who have never done it before need someone else to set it up for them, to help them, especially when you go into Best Buys. That's one of the big reasons they were having those displays, was to really show people how to use it, because there is a pretty big learning curve, and even then, when it is all set up, you still have cables and stuff going everywhere. So a lot of people are kind of turned off by that. I would be very interested to see what Microsoft can do when they put their engineers to work figuring out a wireless solution alongside someone like one of their partners with Acer or Asus, for example. Somebody that can kind of come in on the hardware end with them and kind of work it all out. But wireless VR, I think, would make VR much more interesting to the mainstream consumers. And guys, the next bit of news comes from Atlus. They decided to localize just a slew of 3DS games, bring them over to the US and the rest of the world, and those were a couple ones that people were interested in, things like Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey, Etrian Odyssey 5, and Radiant Historia. Now, all three of these games are available right now on Amazon for pre-order. The only one that I can see that has a date currently, at least for Amazon, this could just be a placeholder date, is Etrian Odyssey 5 with a date of November 30th, 2017. The other two just have no dates right now. I'm not really sure when they're coming out. I think Atlus really, like I said, was not ready for this to happen because it was a test page. They decided, let's put it out. I would look for maybe some release dates going forward, maybe even through E3 week or following that, but at least, you know, they are coming over. Maybe these are the last few batches of games to be localized for the 3DS before these companies start moving to the Switch. It's hard to say. It's hard to pass up that 3DS user base, I understand, but eventually someone has to start taking a chance on a Switch at some point. Now, that's not to say that obviously Atlus is not, since they are doing a Shin Megami Tensei game at some point. We're not sure when. We like to think this year, but that might end up being next year at this rate. And more Assassin's Creed information has been leaked out through retailers. In this case, it was Target. Remember, we did see a shirt kind of advertised a few days ago that showed the main protagonist. In this case, though, this shows a little more. It does back the setting being in Egypt. As you'll see here, it has a full Assassin's Creed Gold Edition pre-order that does show things like Season Pass, a full Steelbook, Deluxe Pack, a bunch of stuff. But like I said, down at the bottom, you do see that they do have a full pyramid behind him in Egypt. And they also talk about different things, including DLC that will come with it for like a bonus for secrets of the first pyramids, which is interesting. Maybe we actually go into tombs and stuff, or pyramids in this case, and explore in there. I don't know. This is going to be interesting because it seems a little different for Assassin's Creed. I like this setting. They could probably tell a really cool story out there as well. And I'm looking forward to this. Like I said, they had a full year off maybe to get some more work in on this and refine it a little better. So I'm looking forward to actually seeing it E3. Just seems like one of the worst kept secrets, doesn't it? This and like the Mario and Rabbids crossover just... I don't know what happened. I don't know. Everybody, like the PR team, just let stuff slip. Advertisers and Target apparently are putting stuff out early. But you know what? We'll find out in about a week or so anyway. Also, the embargo for ARMS seems to have lifted, and everyone's putting their reviews out for it now, and it's holding steady. It seems to have a 78 on Metacritic, although that has changed a lot recently. It started at 70, it's worked its way up to 78, so who knows, maybe it does finish in the 80s, but it looks like it's a good game overall according to reviewers, which is good. I think originally when we saw it, we were worried it wouldn't have a ton of content, and some reviewers have pointed out that there's really not a lot to do in the game other than play online and play against your friends when they come over. So it looks like it's going to be a lot of multiplayer fun. It doesn't look like what they were saying there's a ton of single player stuff to do as compared to mostly playing online or inviting some people over and playing against them. But the game at least looks fun. It looks like a great use of motion controls. It's what everyone has said, is that motion controls works well with it. And I do think a lot of people will probably jump over to the Pro Controller, though, after some time with the motion controls. Either way, though, I'm excited to get it. It's out pretty soon, actually, so it's looking forward to it. I'll pick it up on day one. Then we did get another game announcement ahead of E3. It's actually a port, in this case, from a 2015 arcade fighter made by Team Ninja, and that's Dissidia Final Fantasy NT. And I'm not sure if there was, again, conflicting reports or something. Amazon seemed to post it around when the trailer went up. I don't know if Amazon jumped the gun and posted it, because I did see people talking about it before the trailer was up. Anyway, the trailer goes up and it looks like Dissidia. I mean, it's been out in the arcades over in Japan. We just haven't had a home console version of it until now. And you know, it looks like how Dissidia usually is, where you pick different Final Fantasy characters from different universes or different games, and they kind of fight and brawl it out. And it's really cool because they do have like numbers and stuff that come up above their head. Like it's an RPG, you level them up, you give them weapons, abilities, everything. It's a fun game overall. Now, they did say it's going to be coming out next year, 2018, and it's going to be coming out everywhere, according to them, not just in Japan, which is good. I know we see a lot of these games that only come out in Japan, and we want them, but they don't ever seem to release them outside of Japan. But in this case, they're just going to release it everywhere, which is great. They did say it's going to have 20 playable Final Fantasy heroes and villains. You're also going to be able to control, of those 20, Noctis from Final Fantasy 15, of course, was the main protagonist there. So this is good because Dissidia is a fun game. I played it on the PSP. I didn't play the second one. I just played the first one, but it was fun. And you know, it'll be a lot of fun playing it on the PS4 as well. We just don't know an exact date, just 2018 at some point. So we'll just keep an eye out for the release date to pop up eventually. And guys, next up, we did get sales figures for Japan from the week of May 29th to June 4th. And this does include the launch for the Seiken Densetsu collection. Remember, it has the first one, second one, and third one in Japan. And this also came out alongside Tekken 7 on these same charts. But what's cool is that the Densetsu, or Secret of Mana collection, placed second, which is really good for it. So consider this game has been out. Technically, all three of those have already released in Japan. Not outside of it. The third one never came to the United States or really anywhere else in the world. And to see it do well in really its homeland, that you could technically buy it on the Super Nintendo without too much issue if you look around, is pretty cool. And this, to me, gives them hopefully it gives them a little bit of a push in the direction of localizing it and at least bringing it to regions outside of Japan. But let's take a look at the figures real quick. So see at the top, Tekken 7 did well. It was going to do well. I think we all know this. 58,000 or so units. But below that, you'll see the Secret of Mana collection sitting there at 29,564, and that is above Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So, like I've said before, the Switch is a strong seller for their games. A lot of people do buy the games when they release. It has a good attach rate, and this is just showing it. But what's really interesting is because of Tekken 7 launch, the Switch and the PS4 actually came pretty close in terms of sales. You see this here. Nintendo Switch did 23,000, whereas the PS4 did 21,000. The Switch is still edging towards that 1 million mark at 926,000, and the Xbox One managed to sell 167 units, so that's something. Actually, believe it or not, that's 46 up from last week, which probably because, again, Tekken 7 actually probably helped them sell an extra 40 Xboxes, so there you go. Either way, Square, you need to bring this game outside of Japan. You saw what happened with Disgaea, where it sold better away from Japan, actually. It sold better in the United States than it did in Japan. So, yes, bring this out. I think well, not everybody, but a lot of people in the US would pay the money for a physical or a digital download of that translation for the third one, because we never got it here. It's never left Japan. So, you know what? Now's the time to do it. Switch owners will buy it. And I would love to play it on the go on a portable with the Switch, so bring it over. It looks really cool. And guys, the last bit of news is actually really interesting. This is kind of funny. So we saw what happened with Mass Effect Andromeda, how it came out. It had so many issues. There were bugs. People were making fun of the facial animations, and it felt like an incomplete game overall, because a lot of the patches they brought out after that seemed like things they could have done when in development. Well, we had some more light shed on that, as a couple of people over Kotaku managed to track down some designers and other people and got comments and interviews with them to figure out just what happened behind the scenes to this game. And the story is pretty crazy, actually. It comes down to basically the game was produced after pre-production in like a year and a half, which is massive. Like, they had so many ideas, such as procedurally generated planets, so that really everything is kind of created at random and you go to different planets and you find things. And they kind of had to scrap that. Same with highly detailed facial animations, which is the big thing that a lot of people made fun of. So I have a feeling that was scrapped and they kind of just tried to figure it out real quick at the end, how to make it work. And that came up with some hilarious results, as we saw. And they really just talked about how the Frostbite engine just was very incompatible with a lot of the stuff they were trying to do with Mass Effect. And that's the reason they had so many problems with this engine. Apparently management kept changing hands, and really at this point, it turned out to be a mess. Like, it was terrible, really. It's a big write-up over Kotaku. It's very interesting, but just, it's hard to believe this is a professional company making a game that is supposed to make them money in some way because people's jobs count on it. It just sounds like, I don't know, it sounds just like a cluster. Like, it really does. If you go and read it, you'll have a hard time believing that this is a corporation doing this. It's crazy. And it pretty much comes down to then BioWare and EA taking the Edmonton, which is the studio that worked on it, kind of putting them in a timeout and making them help other studios instead of work on what was originally planned to be a sequel to Mass Effect Andromeda. So it's hard to say what happened. It just sounds severe mismanagement, and I think a lot of us saw the finished product and realized, yes, something went wrong in development, and there you go. Somebody got to the bottom of it, and it's bad. And that's it for Newswave today, guys. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know what you think about anything we talked about today. Whether you are disappointed that Death Stranding will not be at E3 because it's just so weird and you just want to know what is going on in this game. Maybe you're excited for the 3DS games that were announced by Atlas, as they look to be pretty solid RPGs overall. A couple people were asking me, is the 3DS a good system for RPGs? Yes, go buy one now if that's what you want, because it'll play the DS games, and there are some great RPGs there as well. It's a massive library of RPGs. If you're just getting into them, I recommend it. Also, let me know what you think about Secret of Mana, and tell me that it needs to come over, right? Go tell Square it needs to come over. They need to hear it on Twitter. And let me know what you think about the massive confusion and insanity of Mass Effect's development, because it is crazy. Go read the article. It's pretty big, but it is an interesting read to see some of the inner workings of what seemed to be just a troubled development. That's it for now, guys. I will see you next time.